All right, so I guess the meme this morning didn't go very well. I made a video about the idea that I love my bismuth so much, it seems just like how two people might fall in love. I work with a bunch of people who are married or in somewhat committed relationships or are looking for that right person. I got one coworker who's still looking for the right guy. And then I got one coworker who has been happily married for 50 some years, and mostly. But unfortunately, my entire office seems to be straight. I wish we had a few other people who were in non-conventional relationships. Let's put it that way. Not necessarily with another human, but I wish we had a few other coworkers who were either solosexual or decided to marry some non-human person, if you will. Anyway, but all joking aside, I got a little bit of inspiration while I poured this crystal. And my inspiration is that one thing I really suck at is when I discuss things with somebody and the other side goes completely silent. I have a habit of giving concessions when the person I'm negotiating with goes completely silent. I had many years ago when I was doing tutoring outside of the tutoring center, I had a new prospective student. I was negotiating with his mom, and I gave concessions on the price because we were emailing each other back and forth, and I didn't realize she had heard my previous price with another student who had referred them, and so I got a little bit bold, and she said, well, I thought it was this amount, and then I tried to explain, because it had been 2 years since I gave the other price, so I had talked about what I had done since then, including the Computer Olympiad conferences, including other happy students, including, among other things, right? Networking and a job that I had taken at a startup company in between those 2 years, right? And she didn't respond to that. I followed up with another email asking her how her summer was going. It was summertime. She didn't respond to that. And I guess in desperation, I said, well, why don't we start at the price that... And that was the only email she wanted to hear. Her stuff was there. And I never got around to raising the price because I developed good rapport with some of my students. So the end result is that for 4 years, I had the same price with 3 different families. And during which time, if I remember correctly, because I'm very good with these numbers, I remember thinking how much less in terms of silver I was making. It was a good percentage less during those 4 years. If only we had a silver-based or a bismuth-based currency, then I would be okay with I would probably be okay with not raising prices all those 4 years. Although I think my value relative to silver should be going up, right? I'm continuing to get experiences and learning new things, but it would be a little bit better than having my price stuck in dollars, right? And anyway, so that was one time when somebody went silent and I had a big problem. Now, last year I was working at another tutoring center, and my boss and I had a little bit of a toxic relationship because of the part of the world he comes from. And I was the only one who was Asian working in an office full of people with the same religious and philosophical backgrounds. I had traveled to Ellensburg, and the reason I had traveled there was because we had a winter storm. I was living out of my car. I couldn't afford anything over in Seattle, so I booked an Airbnb over in Ellensburg to ride out the storm. I thought I had 3 days off. And one of our students is... I thought everybody would call off because the storm, we had 3-4 feet of snow, if I remember correctly. Now, one of my students, he's really dedicated, and he decided to come in, and my boss called me, and I told him that I had gone to Ellensburg to get away from it all, and he went silent over the phone, and he was silent for probably 2, 3, 4 seconds, and I blurted, okay, I'll come home. And as soon as I said it, I regretted it. But he was silent, and I kind of felt like I needed to fill in the gap. I continue to have this problem today, actually. Just the other day, I was talking to my current boss. We're not nearly as toxic, but I wish we would communicate more. And he had went silent when he asked me if I could stay longer. And anyway, and then sometimes the thing I don't like about my current boss is that sometimes he promises the students that they could come, and then he comes to me asking me, but it's really almost a demand because I don't want to burn bridges with my student. I'm going to have to think about a way to talk to my boss about how can I put more input into it. It's not like I don't want to fill in every time, but the fact that the hour is already promised to the student before he talks to me really hurts me. Anyways, and the inspiration I got while pouring the bismuth crystal is that you pour it, and you really do have to be silent with the bismuth crystal until the right timing, right? If you pour because you're filling up the pot to this level, and if you pour it out too soon or too late, it will not turn out well. If you shake it up too much, it won't turn out well. You just have to trust that everything's going to fall into place. And the next time my boss goes silent, I have to treat it just like that pot of liquid bismuth, and don't poke around at the wrong place or say the wrong thing or blurt out the wrong stuff, right? What I could have done, now looking back at it, when I was sitting in Ellensburg and I felt pressured to say something, I could have said, can I call you back? There's something going on here. Put down the phone and do anything else besides say I'm going to go back to Seattle, right?